Okay, let's see if I can finish this in 10 minutes. Synthetic division is basically another way of dividing. It's a lot faster, but as you can see on the right side, there's a whole bunch of rules that are just sort of arbitrary. You got to follow them to see that it works. But yeah, it is what it is. This question right here, exactly the same as the long division lesson that we had, but I'm going to show you how we can divide without having to worry about the actual variables, the exponents. So if you notice, 1, 4, -1, 16, and 14 are actually the coefficients of every single term dropped down in descending degree. Okay, so you write that out. And also notice that what I write on the left corner is the root of the divisor. So I ask myself, when is x plus 1 equals 0? Well, that means when x is -1. You put that -1 on the left corner. That's how you set up synthetic division. Rule number 1, the first number is an exception. You just drop it right down. Next, whatever number you have here, you are going to multiply with the number you drop down and put it in the next column. So -1 times 1 is going to be -1, and then you add. You continue adding. You drop it down, you add. So plus 4 minus 1, or 4 plus a -1 is 3. And then, let me use a different color. Same thing as before, you are going to multiply. Here, so -1 times 3 is -3. You add the -4. You multiply. Should I use a blue? Okay, I'll do this only once, okay? You're gonna take -1 and you multiply with the 4, and that will give you a +4, and then you add it down. That's a -12. You multiply, I'll use a different color. One more, last one. -1 times the -12, and you will get +12, and you add it, you get -2. Hey, does that look familiar from the previous video? The remainder was -2. What does the other numbers mean? It means that if f of x is divided by g of x, if f of x is divided by g of x, I will get these 4 numbers as the coefficients of the new function, with that as the remainder. In other words, this is 10, this is -4x, this is +x, and this is x, sorry, this is x squared, and that's x cubed. See, in ascending order from right to left, it's remainder, sorry, it's the constant, x1, x2, x3. That's synthetic. That's it. Let's try a harder question, or you can review the video again to remind yourself. Here's a harder question here. Yeah, note that synthetic division so much faster can only be used when dividing with the binomial form. So in other words, if I'm dividing by like x squared plus something like a quadratic, you can't do synthetic. Synthetic is limited to just binomial form. Using synthetic division, confirm that the following equation is incorrect. So this is my dividend, that's my divisor, that's my answer or quotient, and that should be my remainder. I'm going to test it. So I think synthetic is a lot faster. So remember, my divisor is the bottom, x minus 2, which means if x minus 2 equals a 0, x must be a 2. I'm writing a 2 here. The coefficients of my dividend is 1, 3, -2, and -1. And that comes from this 1, 3, -2, and -1. Okay, first number is exception. Drop it down. Multiply. Add 5. Multiply. Add. Multiply. Add. There you go. That means the answer should be x squared 5x 8 plus 15 as my remainder. X squared checks out, 5x checks out, 8 checks out, but that thing is wrong. I also notice that this is in quotient form. So the correction should be if x cubed plus 3x squared minus 2x minus 1 is divided by x minus 2, that should be x squared plus 5x plus 8 and 15 over the x minus 2, because this is quotient form. There are two errors in this question. Okay. I invite you to pause or go back to this part of the video and watch it again. It's clear. Here's a question where 2x plus 3 is a factor. So this time the root. The root is actually a fraction. So what do you do? How do you do synthetic when you have a fraction? It's nothing too difficult, but you will see a couple more steps being used. So here we go. To deal with a fraction, you can actually break this down and think of it as a division of 2 and a multiplication of -3. I'll say it one more time. You can think of a multiplication of a division as of a fraction as a division of 2 and then a multiplication of -3. So drop this down is a 2. So make your life easier by dividing by the denominator first, and then tell yourself after you have to multiply by -3 before you jump it right up. Okay? There's a reason why I asked you to write this because it will help you in the future. 2 is dropped down, divided by 2 is a 1, and then multiply by -3 up here. Add. Divided by a 2, then multiply by -3. Add. Divide by a 2, multiply by -3, and then a 0. Ooh, look at that. This is going to be perfectly divided without any remainders. Okay? Determine the other zeros of the function. So f of x, which used to be this, could actually be rewritten as 2x plus 3 multiplied by this? No. The answer is actually this. There's a reason why I asked you to write it all down whenever you divide it by 2, and that is because the answer is not the number you write right away. It is one right underneath when you have divided it by 2, x squared minus 5x plus 6. So whenever you get a factor, please make sure you use the fraction when you're dividing. It helps that much more. Okay? Now, and of course, the remainder is 0, so I don't have to write. Look what you did. You actually perfectly factored a cubic. Now, if you've developed the eyes and you've been practicing your factoring, you know that this quadratic can also be further factored. Product sum, -3 and -2. Practice that. If you're not sure how I got there, well, you can reach out to me. If then I'm looking for the zeros, what values of x make the y value equal to a 0? Well, if 2x plus 3 is equal to 0, then just like before, we know that -3 over 2 is 0. If x minus 3 is a 0, x is going to be +3. And if x minus 2 equals a 0, that means x has to be a +2. So the x-intercepts are this, this, and this. There you go. This is synthetic. So much easier and faster, in my opinion. But of course, you're gonna have to practice what you're supposed to do if the factor is of the form ax minus b, not just x minus b. Like, what do you do when there's a number in front of the x? Okay. Again, I invite you to pause the video or go back to visit it. Oh, I made a mistake, didn't I? I erased it too soon. The x-intercepts were -3 over 2. What was it? What was it? 2 and 3 and 2. Okay, 3 and 2. 3 over 2, 3 and 2. That means my zeros are 3, 2, and -1.5. Also, if you look back, I can plug in a 0 and I will see that my y-intercept is at 18, somewhere up here. This is a cubic function, so I know it's going to start here and finish here. So my curve is going to look something like that. There's my quick sketch of the curve. Try the questions that you find at the bottom of the sheet. If you have any problems with it, please reach out to me. Best of luck, and yeah, hope to hear from you.